to call the meeting of the August 15th meeting of Finance and Facilities Committee. I would like to come to order. Before we get to our agenda, though, I'm going to go out of order and welcome Dr. Hawkins for his first meeting. Hopefully, it will be painless. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
And you're going to be on the spot in a bit, but I wanted to welcome you first. Okay. 1.1, June 2023. I'm assuming everybody read the minutes. I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of the June meeting. Moved.
Second.
Moved by Margaret, second by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Motion approved. Okay. Action items. 2.2.1. Recommend approval of payroll certification. Motion.
So moved.
Jim.
Second.
Second by Margaret. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. 2.2. Recommend approval of 2023-24 Assistant Center Grant.
I move.
Make a motion. Second.
I have a question. Is this the one that this goes downtown? Is that what happens down in the center? Is that where the money goes? Center.
Just a grant award to our workforce development office. That's all.
Goes to work, it doesn't go down, it's after students down at the building down there.
Culinary.
No,
the incubator. The incubator.
Yeah, it's with the Binghamton Local Development Corporation.
And that's the
And
incubator.
part of workforce development.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, Jen.
All in favor?
I don't want to second.
Any opposed?
Second, I second.
Motion approved. 2.3, recommend approval to purchase computers and monitors from the New York OGS contract.
Second.
Who moved?
Alejandro.
Moved, Margaret second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. 2.4, recommend approval of AY 2023-24 Beyond the Classroom Grant Award.
I'll move.
Jim move on, go second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion approved. 2.5, recommend approval of SUNY Child Care Expansion Grant Award. Someone make the motion?
I move.
Second,
I'll second.
Margaret second.
Is this additional money or new money? You got a new grant or this is what we always have?
New grant. It's not it's a new grant. It's not the block grant.
Okay, so we've applied for this.
Mhm.
That's all we got?
I think that's the max.
Oh, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion approved. 2.6. Recommend approval of bid 23-12 non-credit course management and registration software. Someone make the motion?
Move.
Second.
Margaret, Jim second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion approved. 2.7. Recommend approval of AY 23-24 Student Emergency Fund Grant Award. Would someone like to make the motion? Alejandro, second. Margaret, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved.
I have a question. Does they have to apply for this money?
Yes.
Or
Yes, no, they have to
somebody
apply.
designates?
And there's a committee, and they get up to $500 in emergency funds for the academic year.
So if they're applying applying for emergency funds, how long does it take to go through the process?
Probably about
If
3
it's an
days max,
emergency?
3
Oh,
days
okay.
max.
Okay.
Two
And
point eight.
they know to apply.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Point eight, recommend approval of unpaid leave of absence of computer.
Compo.
Okay, someone like to make the motion?
So moved.
Jen, second.
A move for second.
Margaret? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. 2.9, recommend approval of resolution requesting an additional 50 days of sick bank for Matthew Brennan. Would someone like to make the motion?
So move.
Margaret, second. Jim? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passed. 2.10, recommend approval of revised job description for assistant registrar. Okay, someone like to make the motion?
Move.
Margaret,
I'll second.
second, Alejandro. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion passed. 2.11, recommend approval of revised job description for Associate Vice President of Student Development and Dean of Students. Motion,
So moved.
Jim, second,
I'll second.
Alejandro. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. 2.12, recommend approval of Collegiate Enterprise Solution LLC, the registry for professional services contract for the position for interim associate vice president / dean of students for the period of June 1, 2023 to May 31st, 2024. Motion.
Move.
Jim, second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Informational items, President's Report, 3.1.
Yes, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at my first Facilities or Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. I will present an oral report today, but I do have a written report which I'll submit at the regular board meeting. So just to give you highlights from the report that we're preparing, I'd like to include some current information on enrollment. So that's the reason that I'm not distributing much of it right now, and we're finalizing a couple of dates. Compared to last year at this time, 2 weeks prior to the start of the semester, we're down 75 students, or 2.32%, and up 5.41 FTEs. This decline is really related to some deregistering of students for non-payment, and we expect that this will prompt students to pay their bills, or at least to seek either third-party payment or payment arrangements. So when we compare our numbers from a year ago, we seem to be doing a little better, which is very encouraging. It could have gone the other direction, and this is 2 weeks prior to the start of the semester. I want to acknowledge the work that's being done by Marcom and the Academic Advising Office. They're conducting special advising and registration sessions for students and an event. And this is an opportunity that students will have to meet with advisors, to register for classes, and get connected with key departments like admissions, financial aid, and the registrar's office. A follow-up event is also going to happen within the community for those that have yet to apply. That event is happening tomorrow, August the 16th. As far as summer enrollment, our final comparison of the summer indicates that we're up 58 students. So the summer was a good period for us. So it's up 88.707%. And an FTE, we're up 14.89 full-time equivalents, so about 12.74%. I have been appointed, or I was appointed on July 1st as the 8th president of SUNY Broome, and I've been very busy meeting with a number of individuals and organizations. And the actual report has all of them listed through today, but just some highlights include Assemblywoman Donna Lepardo, Assemblyman Joe Angelino, New York State Senator Leah Webb. I met with the county executive, Jason Gardner, and his team of deputies. I met with the legislative chair, Daniel Reynolds, and the Binghamton City Mayor, Jared Cram, and the Binghamton City Council and several members of the City Council. I attended a 2-day retreat in Saratoga Springs with the presidents and the chancellor of the State University of New York, and had a really nice one-on-one conversation with Harvey Stanger at Binghamton University. I've attended or had 2 meetings, or a meeting with all 3 collective bargaining groups. So I have really established a really solid relationship with the leadership of those areas. I have attended the Binghamton Rotary and was invited to the Endicott Rotary. And what is Endwell? I'm sorry.
It's Endwell, is it?
No, I'm on to Endicott.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Endwell on the list. Okay, we'll add them to the list. And today at noon, I'm speaking at the Binghamton Rotary, so I'm looking forward to having conversations with that group. The Broome Community College Foundation Board of Directors, I attended their meeting, their first meeting. And then just a variety of other activities. I won't go through the rest of the list. Very excited. I was invited to meet various members of the African American community, faith leaders, retired IBM executives, community organizers, and Binghamton University staff and administrators of color. So that was put together by Dr. Carol Ross. I want to thank her for pulling that group together for me. The week of July 24th, we made our way across the campus on a meet and treat tour. The vice presidents and I, armed with dozens of themed Wegmans cupcakes, went door to door to introduce myself to the hundreds of faculty and staff that remained on campus during the
There's
summer.
nothing like food that.
Yeah, exactly. It was a big hit. But we were visited by the senior vice chancellor for the State University of New York, the senior vice chancellor for student affairs. I'm sorry, for student success. And she came to meet with the executive council. She met with, took a tour of the campus, and also met with many of our professionals in the student success realm. So, and was very impressed by the visit. She was very impressed by what she saw. And really followed up with a nice complimentary email about how she was treated while she was here. And then, despite rain canceling my balloon ride, I was able to participate in Broome County's Speedy Fest. And my traditional lamb speed received the 2nd place in the celebrity backyard chef celebrity category. So I want to thank a little assist from the culinary. But nonetheless, we're victorious, and I think we got a really good press out of that as well. There are many mission moments that were provided by the vice presidents, and I've listed those in my oral written report. I won't go over them all right now, but want to just conclude with an announcement about the Presidential Transition Committee, which is a group of members of the board, as well as students, community members, and members of the Executive Council, who will guide my transition over the first 100 days. For me, it's mostly about listening and learning. And this group will arrange for the right people to come in and facilitate open forums where I can listen and help me process information. And then finally, I just want to make you aware of some events that are upcoming and activities. The Faculty Staff Assembly is next Thursday, August the 24th. Students move in at the Student Village on the 26th. The semester starts on the 28th. There is a press conference on that date as well. Picnic with the President is on August the 31st. September 11th is our remembrance ceremony at 10 o'clock at the flagpole, weather permitting. And then there was a 2-day SUNY and DC advocacy event that happened September 20th and 21st. So that gives you a preview of things that are happening.
I'm exhausted.
Oh, yeah. This is the rough week. And Diane and I are exchanging glances because she knows how time consuming and grueling the schedule is. But I'm enjoying it. Thank you very much. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
In October, you're going to Saratoga, right, for the
I am for the New York Community College.
NYPCT.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Thank you. And I could verify he has been around. It was my honor to take him to introduce him, and he ditched me very quickly. Good, thank you, and I did see you on TV. You were interviewed at the Speedy Fest.
Speedy Fest, yes.
And I like the as you're coming into town, that big
The billboard.
billboard.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I understand it's there.
Well, it's very eye catching.
Yes, it is.
By.
Okay. All right, Michael, budget and finance updates.
So we have about 2 weeks left before the end of the fiscal year, which is August 31st for the college. So the monthly budget forecast is the same as it's been for the last several months. Had a lot of year-end accruals that will be more substantial. So at this point, nothing's really changed. So we're still projecting about 3.8 million of stimulus funding to ensure a balanced budget.
Michael, is that the end of the stimulus money?
No, so in the next year's budget that starts on September 1, there's about 2.4 million that's being budgeted. And then there's, if the world was perfect and we use 2.4 and we use about 3.8 million, there'll be about 500,000 left for fiscal year 24-25.
When does that have to be? Does it have to be used by a certain date?
No, the college has applied for the funding against lost revenue. And so, there was a fairly complicated report that you submitted, and once that was approved, then we were eligible. We've actually the college has received all the cash for it, and it's basically in fund balance. It's in restricted fund balance. Mm-hmm. So we just allocated over the course of the next several years.
But it's counted in our fund balance, what's there?
Yes. So we are generally reporting two fund balances. They're all together. But I think because stimulus was kind of a separate grant supported, I've tried to at least represent to the board what we have in stimulus money. Meanwhile, we have about 5.5 million of the standard fund balance, which I don't know, it's about 11.5%,
which is what we want
of the budget. So
thank you.
Okay, so that's the forecast. We'll be back. September will probably be the same forecast. October we'll give you we'll give you some write-offs, and we'll have a much better idea of how year end will look. Still have to go through the audit process, which will take us into January and February 2024, but so that's the current year. Just a couple other major things that aren't directly attributed to the college, but I think are really important to the college is we're in the process of trying to complete a refinancing of the village, and we just received about 3 pages worth of additional documentation. We're actually going to college on behalf of Housing Corp. gonna apply for a rating by Moody's Investor Service. Gives college and housing corp a lot more flexibility about what kind of financing we can go after. So so part of that due diligence by Moody's is they want a tremendous amount of information, not only on housing corp, but also on the college, because the college is critical to supporting housing in a number of ways. So we're going through that process.
Do we have a Moody's rating now? Or
No.
this is our first ever?
This would be probably the first time the college has.
What do you expect it to be?
Well, we're hopeful that we get investment grade rating, which would be a B. That gives us even more flexibility. And because I think of the relationship that the college has with housing, I think that's a plus. We also had, when housing first was considered, and this was again under the foundation, typically what you do is have a demand study done by a third party to see, how big of a facility might be supported by the demographics and by the competition in the region. So the housing corp, based on college's recommendation, had that updated this past year, and it's still pretty strong. With kind of concern with COVID, and there's been more housing that's been built. We also are competing within the region for apartments that are being built, et cetera. So understanding that generally the market's pretty tight right now, Dr. Hawkins can verify that. So in any event, housing demand study ended up being pretty solid. Housing's enrollment has been pretty solid over the post-COVID. So those are good things. College is pretty stable, very strong financially. So I think all of those things, we're cautiously optimistic that we get an investment grade rating by Moody's. So there's been some preliminary conversations behind the scenes, and it sounds reasonably encouraging. So we may know that Moody's probably will come up here and kind of talk to a couple of college people, a couple of housing people, take a look at the facility. They may do that, or they may do it all through Zoom. So I'm not too sure yet. So that's a big project, about 15 to 20 million that we're going to refinance. I think our thinking right now is that we're going to go out 30 years. The current financing was a 10-year, had a very complicated swap as part of the financing that current finance, and we have an investment banker housing has retained to maneuver us through this whole process. So we think that the best approach is just get a fixed 30-year and be done with it, rather than revisit this every 10 years. So more to come. Probably at the September meeting, we'll have a lot more information. Kind of have to get this done either by the end of the fourth quarter of the calendar year or the first quarter of 2024. So, and we'll kind of keep an eye on the markets clearly too. Where interest rates, they've been rising quite a bit, but housing dormitories has stabilized since post-COVID. So there is an appetite for financing these kind of projects. So just more to come on that. So that'll be a major lift for the college finance people, along with everything else we're kind of involved with. That's really it on the other reports you have are pretty standard. We'll note that in the investment report, you'll see a considerable amount of interest earnings. College has retained a third party to assist it in a fairly complex but cash flow algorithm that, as you'll see in the report, we've invested $8 million, $10 million at any given time, some of which is longer term, probably getting a rate of 4.5% with it, which is pretty good on the municipal side. We don't all of it is pretty much risk-free, not anything's risk-free, but on the municipal side, we can invest in stocks or invest in anything that has any kind of risk. So that will be really helpful to the college going forward. You know, post-COVID, again, interest rates were about 0, right? So, but in addition to the interest rate, I think the most important thing is how much cash can you predict over the course of a year that you're really going to need. And so, so we've been very pleased. This firm is called 3+1. They're out of Rochester. A number of other community college, SUNY colleagues use it. And so we've been pretty happy with that. Jeanette has kind of driven that process. I think we're pretty pleased with that. I think over a course of a year, we might be able to generate anywhere between $250,000 to $500,000. So it's pretty material going forward. Housing did make its monthly mortgage payment, and I think they're in reasonably good financial cash shape as well. Standard grant listing any grants that we've received under 50,000 and all the transactions related to human resources during the month of June and July, because you didn't have a July. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Hey, facilities update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You should have a copy of my report in your packet. I'll hit the highlights because we have 2 full pages of projects and this isn't all inclusive either. So let me hit the highlights. Number 1 being the Richmond project that's ongoing in Old Science and Student Services. That's moving ahead very well. In fact, we did run into some delays over the summer as we identified or we found asbestos behind some of the walls that we demoed. And rather than recover that up, we opted to take the asbestos out altogether. So any and all asbestos that we have found in the demolition process has been eliminated and removed from the building. The selection committee is still in the process of interviewing architects for the conversion of Old Science to student union. I think those interviews will be finishing up this coming week. Holt Architects, who is looking at this building, the Wales building, as a potential one-stop shop, will be presenting their initial findings on August 17th of this week. 2 of the more critical areas that we needed to get completed prior to classes starting were the criminal justice move from Old Science to the business building and the painting classroom move from Old Science to the library. And I looked at both of those sites yesterday, and they're both nearly complete. Criminal justice is done, and the painting classroom is. We just have to get a new HVAC unit in that room, and we should be all set before classes start on August 25th. I met with Carol yesterday when I was on campus and showed her the cafeteria where we've done a makeover. We completely repainted the dining area in the cafeteria, and we installed new lights. And it's a pretty incredible change, right? Yeah. So it looks really good. All of the other work that's ongoing is all related to infrastructure issues that we have had, and the bottom 5 projects are projects that we will be moving forward with, and we have spoken to before: the electric vehicle garage in the Old Science building, electrical lighting upgrade in the little theater, campus-wide re-signing, academic and athletic space evaluation in the student center, and then the lecture hall upgrade in the AT building. But perhaps most importantly, and I neglected to mention this at the beginning of my report, as you know, Kathy Conaghan had sent an email to us and asked us to make sure that we evaluated and discussed any and all projects with President Hawkins before moving forward. So this report that I gave you is a summary of the projects that we are moving forward with, and Dr. Hawkins has reviewed and approved. So there's nothing on here that is not supposed to be being done. Anything else that he recommended be put on hold is on hold, and once we get additional information or able to make some internal decisions, we'll follow up on progress of those projects as well. So that is my report. I would be more than happy to answer any questions on any of the projects that we have listed or the ones that I spoke to.
Thank you. Is there any other business that needs to be discussed today's meeting? Hey. We're getting a breaking record, okay.
Laura has a report in here too, right?
Oh, I don't see it on the agenda. Oh, sorry.
It's under me.
Oh, it's under
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if I go by the agenda, it wasn't there, so that's just like you.
It's okay.
All right, if there's no further business, like someone like to make a motion, we adjourn. Jim,
I second.
Margaret, second.
No, Alejandro.
Oh, Alejandro, I'm sorry. You gotta speak up. Or sit closer to me. All right, meeting adjourned.